Nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen is one of the elements that make up proteins. Proteins are needed for growth in plants and animals. Animals depend on plants for their protein needs since they cannot synthesize their own food. Plants, on their part, can synthesize proteins by using nitrogen but cannot utilize a free nitrogen in the atmosphere. Plants obtain nitrogen in two forms, either in the ammonium form or as nitrates. The illustration below shows the nitrogen cycle. Nitrogen fixation. This is the conversion of atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates. It occurs in the following three ways: oxidation of nitrogen by lighting during thunderstorms, free-living blue-green algae and other bacteria such as Azotobacter and Clostridium, symbiotic bacteria and other bacteria such as Rhizobium in root nodules of legumes. The nitrates are absorbed by plants which use them to synthesize proteins. Plants are eaten by animals which convert plant protein to animal protein through assimilation. When both plants and animal die, they are fed on by saprophytic bacteria and fungi, and in the process, releasing ammonia. Animals excrete, releasing ammonia and urea. Ammonia gets into the soil and combines with water and other elements to form ammonium compounds or salts. The ammonium salts are then converted to nitrates by nitrifying bacteria of the genera Nitrosomonas and Nitrococcus. The nitrites are then converted to nitrates by nitrifying bacteria of the genus Nitrobacter. The nitrates are absorbed by plants. Some nitrates are converted to either free gaseous nitrogen or nitrites by denitrifying bacteria called Pseudomonas denitrificans. This process takes nitrogen back to the atmosphere from where it was obtained, and in the process reducing the fertility of the soil. The illustration below shows the process of nitrogen fixation from free nitrogen in the atmosphere to nitrates in the soil. Energy flow in an ecosystem. The main source of energy in an ecosystem is the sun. This energy is trapped by green plants during photosynthesis to form food, which is a potential energy in chemical form stored in the plant. The plants are therefore called producers in an ecosystem. Some organisms, such as herbivores, feed directly on plants and are known as primary consumers. The primary consumers are in turn fed on by carnivores, which are called secondary consumers. The secondary consumers are fed on by tertiary consumers. On death of a tertiary consumer, they are eaten by a vulture, which is called a quaternary consumer. These feeding levels are called trophic levels. When all living organisms die, they are decomposed by saprophytic bacteria and fungi, which are together referred to as decomposers. This flow of energy from one trophic level to the next results in loss of some energy in the form of heat. Energy is also lost in the processes of excretion, respiration, or defecation. When organic materials are fully decomposed, all the energy is lost from the ecosystem. As such, energy flows through an ecosystem and is never recovered. The illustration shows energy flow in an ecosystem. The energy flows from the sun to the producers, primary consumers, secondary consumers, tertiary consumers, and finally, decomposers. Food chains. A food chain is a linear representation of the flow of energy from a producer through a sequence of living organisms in which each eats the one below it in the chain and is eaten by the one above. The video clip shows a feeding relationship whereby the gazelle feeds on the grass and the cheetah feeds on the gazelle. Click the play button to view the video. Arrows are used to point to the eater. If decomposers are included in the chain, they are always placed at the end of the chain. Examples of food chains are given below. Food webs. A single organism in a food chain can be a source of energy of nutrients for more than one organism. For example, green grass may be fed on by a gazelle or zebra, water by buck, dik-dik, and many other herbivores. Each of these herbivores may in turn be fed on by different carnivorous animals, and so on. As such, feeding relationships may be more complex than is revealed by food chains. Therefore, feeding relationships will always consist of a network of different food chains forming a food web. Food web may be regarded as a system of food chains that are linked to one another in a given community. The following is an example of a food web. The photographs show the different organisms that are represented in the food web. Pyramid of numbers. This is a diagrammatic representation of the number of organisms at each trophic level of a food chain in an ascending manner. The number of organisms at each trophic level of a food chain can be counted or estimated. The numbers of organisms can be obtained by totaling the population of all the species at that trophic level. For example, total number of plants or producers, total number of herbivores or primary consumers, and total number of carnivores or secondary consumers. The numbers can then be used to draw a diagram or pyramid of numbers which shows the relationship between the numbers of organisms occupying each trophic level. The figure below shows a pyramid of numbers. From the pyramid, it is realized that the number of organisms transferring energy to the next energy level decrease as one ascends the pyramid. Sometimes, the numbers of organisms feeding on a primary producer are more than the numbers of producers. For instance, if we were to draw a pyramid of numbers for caterpillars feeding on a leaf of cabbage and themselves are being fed on by a few birds, the pyramid of numbers would look different as shown. This is called an inverted pyramid of numbers. The figure shows an inverted pyramid of numbers. Pyramid of biomass. Biomass refers to the total dry weight of organisms at each given trophic level of a food chain. The total dry mass is the mass of tissue only without any water. A pyramid drawn using total dry mass of organisms at each trophic level is called a pyramid of biomass. When drawing a pyramid of biomass, a scale must be used in order to draw boxes whose lengths are proportional to the dry mass of organisms while the heights remain the same. An example of a pyramid of biomass is given below. Population estimation methods. The number of individuals of a given species in an ecosystem should be determined regularly to enable proper planning of the utilization of the resources available to avoid exceeding the carrying capacities. To determine the population of an organism in a given habitat, the following methods are used: quadrat, line and belt transects, and capture-recapture method. Below are illustrations of a quadrat, line transect, and belt transect population estimation methods. Quadrat. A quadrat is a square of a wooden or metallic frame of a known area. It can be 1 square meters, 0.5 square meters, or any area. It is made by joining 4 pieces of wood or metal together. The following are the steps followed when using a quadrat. 1. Identify a selected area. 2. Toss the quadrat over the shoulder in the selected area. 3. Make a table with rows indicating the number of throws, while the columns have the titles to show results after every throw. 4. Count the number of the organism of interest and record. Sometimes it is impossible to say where one plant stops and another begins. In this case, use a percentage area of the quadrat covered. 5. Repeat the above procedure for at least 4 times for a good sampling. And 6. Add the total number of all the values of organism obtained and divide by the number of throws done to get an estimate of the population. Play the video below to see secondary school students estimating population using the quadrat method.
A quadrant is a square frame of a known area, and a standard quadrant is made up of 1 meter by 1 meter, enclosing an area of 1 square meter.
The aim of our study is to estimate the population of oxalis in our school field. To do that, you throw the quadrat at random, whereby you count the number of oxalis that are enclosed by the quadrant. You can repeat the procedure several times to get the average.
In this station, we have 112 number of oxalis.
In this station, we have 21 number of oxalis.
Now the average can be used to estimate the population of oxalis in the school field.
Transect. This is a tape or string running along the ground in a straight manner between 2 poles. There are 2 types of transects: line and belt transects. Line transect. A single line of either a string or a tape is tied to 2 pieces of wood as pegs and marked at intervals of 1 meter. The photograph shows the line transect method. Belt transect. Two single lines are running parallel to each other, separated by known width through a selected area in a habitat. The photograph shows the belt transect method. Steps to follow when using transect method to estimate populations. Select the area of study. Make a sketch of the whole area selected above. Fix one peg firmly on the ground and tie one end of string or tape or any other material that can be used to the peg. Fix the other peg firmly